private reel tonight is with an artist to whom the term legendary truly applies. Indeed, she's the only person ever to sing duets with Mick Jagger, Rod Stewart, and David Bowie. That artist is Tina Turner. We began by asking about her classic, River Deep Mountain High, produced by rock music's most famous producer, Phil Spector.
After working with Phil Spector, when he produced River Deep Mountains High, it was 2 weeks working alone at his house. The first week was just getting keys, as high as I could sing, as low as I could sing. No improvising, none at all, which I liked because that had been my style, ad-libbing and getting into it and singing it the way I was. He wanted just that melody. The second week was finally finding the key and keeping the melody and doing all of the enunciating. And then I only went into the studio just to put a rough vocal in the beginning. And there was a room full of musicians, every instrument that you can name. Never in life had I seen it. Of course, you see orchestras, but they're in performance, but not in a recording studio. And he walked out, they played a few bars, it was not right. He tore up every sheet of music there. Rip. This little man tore this paper. Now what? Of course, a few people were all in the frenzy. And he started from scratch there, and the guy sort of re-scratched what he should have written in the beginning. He did not want it changed. And then I did the vocals. It took me about a week. And the hardest line that we stayed on for days, for hours rather, was, when I was a little girl, when I was a little girl, I had a rag doll, the only doll I've ever owned. He never said, got it. He kept saying, fine, we're getting closer to it or whatever. So I think it might have been a few takes that it was very close to what it is that he wanted, but everything else was just as he wanted it. And I felt, he did strange things for me as well. I'd never seen someone reach into an ashtray and eat an apple core. I mean, he just wasn't involved with anything except what he was doing. He was, mixing and he was on and he would just fiddle around and probably wanted something and he didn't have anybody surrounding him, being there every hand and foot. And he didn't have people pitching around him, So he was probably hungry. Someone had eaten and he just went, I thought it was fantastic, because that was how he was. That was a unique thing about Phil. Oh, river deep, mountain high, if I lost you, would I cry? Oh, how I love you, baby, baby. When you were a young boy. Rivers Deep Mountains High was a success, a #1 actually in Britain. And the Stones were starting their tour at the time. And what they did in that period, whoever was riding the charts very high at that time was like who they invited to support them on their tour. And so they invited Ike and I because they were touring in Europe. The record was a hit there, and we went over to actually, that was our first trip to go to perform with the Stones. Had no idea who they were. I knew very little about a lot of the rock stars at the time. And, we arrived, and it was unusual because my style, the Stones are very rock and roll. The girls and I were in sort of dresses and high heels, and during that time there were no pantyhose, there was just sort of the garter belt and the front page the next day was dressed with ostrich feathers, and they weren't really short in those days either, they were about knee length. And I was doing a step called a shag, and there was the garter belt, and it was like, oh my God, in a foreign country with this on the front page, but that's how they are, everything is sort of exploited. And they loved it. They thought it was just out of this world. No other girl had come over wearing a garter belt and a dress with feathers and flying all over the place in high heels. And I just sort of won the audience over with being very physical. Yeah. Nick was playing the tambourine, just the beating on the tambourine and singing when we first toured in Britain with him. It was like when he came to America that he was dancing. And I would often see him in the wing, not knowing who he was, because you could just see, just the face, just his face. And he would come into our dressing room and said, I like how you girls dance, And we would sort of the pony step was really big then. That's like a 1, 2, 3, 3-step thing. And he would try to do it, we'd laugh because of his rhythm, And we had a real good time with Mick and the dancing because he really wanted to. So it wasn't like a one-to-one teaching. It was an inspiration, like his music inspired me later to start doing Honky Tonk Woman and all the other Jack Flash. It was that sort of a thing. Then when he came to America 2 years later, there he was. He was doing his step of the pony, ka-ka-ka-ka-ka. And so it was fun. The Rolling Stone music was what I liked more insofar as the raunchiness than what like the Beatles were doing, But then I sort of, after going there and actually experiencing them, then I became knowledgeable about what is going on with this group and where I thought they would go. No, I didn't know that they would ever become as enormous as they are, because to me they were just another rock group. Sorry, Mick. There's something about me. If you want to take the time, we can take a week. It will probably take me that long to tell you why. Because it's not something that you can tell someone, because I am it. I do it. And I would have to give all kinds of examples to guess at what people are seeing with me. Why does the guys like what I do? Why does all the girls want to take off their gorgeous dresses and kick and get high and let their hair down? They want to get wild. Why? Why? Because they've been suppressing something and I didn't. I yelled out, I kicked, I jumped, I did what inspired me. They stuck to the rules. Oh, this wouldn't be very nice. I mean, they were told also, I'm self-made. They had producers, they had directors to say, well, this wouldn't be ethically right, and you should have, there were manners, there were rules, and there were people being told, you should not sing without having to do your vocal exercise. No one told me anything. I did what was natural. I'm a natural person. And that's why people pick up on whatever it is that I am about, because I am just natural. I told myself, I learned from experiences. I did what I felt. I do what I feel. Let's stay together. Loving you I'm not good enough. I'm beginning to feel secured because I haven't been, I'm very much on a foundation here. I'm not being blown away. Hit record, now stop. I'm thinking of where I've come from, and I'm thinking that all those years that I had to work, another year's time, I can pick and choose if I decide to. I am beginning to feel secured, finally, that if something happens to me, I don't have to run to a friend. That I can really be the foundation, backbone for my family and supporting them and whatever needs there are, because I'm the only one. It's been a bit of stress. Not that I haven't handled it well, because I've been continuously working. But once you get a little bit of financial security behind you, you can feel a little bit more at ease.
I've been thinking about my own protection. It scares me to feel this way.
So I'm still working hard. What do I feel? I'm working very hard, but I'm looking ahead and saying, but 2 years from now, 85, 86, I'll be in a real good position. I'm very pleased with knowing how many people wanted this for me. How many people in the music business, in the industry, how many street people, everyday people that just walk up to me and say how happy they are for me. And you realize all of that energy that was waiting for this? Isn't that wonderful?